Well, good morning, Eileen. Let me give you the mic there so you can um, take it. All right, there you go. So, good morning. And do a mic check here. Hello. Great. I see you put the chat in. Can you access the mic? Can you hear me? Hey, Robert, you can't hear me. All right, just a second. Let me do this. All right. Mic is off for me, but I can hear you. Okay, just a second. Uh hmm. Maybe Eileen, try to log out and try to log back in again, perhaps. Hello, Lewis. We're having a little bit of technical difficulty. We're trying to resolve that. Robert, I don't know if your mic.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now and see you. Well, good
Okay. Good
morning. Good
morning. Am
morning.
I supposed to see somebody or just the screen? Or just little dots?
Well, the top part, the large part is the big screen. And
Okay.
on the bottom, I think you might see a strip on the bottom where you might see a circle with me in
Oh,
it. And
okay.
there I am. It's not like Zoom where it's a big picture.
Ah,
And
okay.
then
Hi,
I see
Lewis.
you.
Uh-huh.
All right. And yes, and there's Lewis.
Lewis, our cousin Lewis.
Welcome to our talk. Today my interview with my cousin Aileen Hitomi Lane, formerly Aileen Nishimura. And so I have known Eileen all of her life. I remember when she was born, my mother, father, and my grandmother, we all went over to my Uncle Donald and Auntie Chieco's apartment to greet and see Eileen as a little infant baby.
Oh God,
So
that was so
that's
long ago.
yes. And we do come from on the Nishimura side,
Mhm.
a pretty large family because the siblings of the Nishimura was eight. My father was Richard Nishimura was the eldest, and um, Eileen's dad Donald. I believe he is the fourth in the line, right? Because there was my dad, Auntie Laura, then Auntie Flora,
Uh,
th- and then I think Uncle Donald, and then Auntie Kathy, and
no,
then
real
well, no
I have
George.
no idea. Yeah. Well, my dad is 92, so I don't know. I thought he was I thought
Well,
Auntie Kathy was
he
older.
probably. Well,
Yeah.
anyway, well,
Yeah.
this conversation is
Yes.
more towards our family,
Our
but
family.
just to know, to tell everyone here how well I know Eileen and how long I have known her. but also in the chat, I just posted in um, her bio. But what I'd like for you to tell us first is kind of like your early life, like going from Los Angeles um, to ending up in Sedona. And oh, hold on just a second. Somebody is requesting the mic. I'm not sure who that is. Um, There we go. I'm allowing Lewis to have the mic. So if he has a question for you. But Eileen, if you can kind of go over some of your history and how you ended up being a Reiki master and a craniosacral therapist in Sedona.
Oh gosh, it goes how far back did you want me to go? Okay.
Well, you know what?
Well,
Um,
yeah.
I do want to talk about the fly casting, but that is when you got to Idaho. But talk about how you started a career in healing as a occupational therapist,
Oh
and
gosh, yeah.
that kind of, I think, well, you have to answer that. That kind
Yeah.
of led you into where you are today because you
Yes.
started working with people, seeing what their ailments were, their pain was, and wanting to help them
Oh,
and
Robert
help
says he
them
can't
holistically.
I'm sorry, Robert says he can't hear a thing.
He can't. All
He
right.
cannot. Yes.
I say, Robert, try to log out and log back in again.
Hi,
Camille and
Camille.
Lewis, can you hear us? Let
I
me
think
go
Camille
back
can.
to the chat.
Yep.
Yes, she can. Okay. And there's also a text chat there. Oh, yes. And Camille also has lived in Sedona.
Oh,
So,
hi, Camille.
anyway, so
Yes.
yes. So please go ahead with your story on
Yeah.
starting from being a occupational therapist in
Oh
LA.
God. Yeah. Well, that was many years ago. I mean, I always knew that I wanted to be of service, and I really didn't know about OT back then. And when I went to college, I was
Mhm.
a physical therapy major. I was a speech and language pathology major, and it just didn't
Mm.
feel that was it. And so I went into travel and tourism. I worked for Pack um, for about a
Oh.
number of years. I kind of dropped out because I thought that wasn't the path, and but I still felt that call. So I was working full time. I went took some classes at Valley College in LA, the San Fernando Valley, and
Hmm.
that is during a class where someone interviewed an occupational therapist, and that's why I thought, oh my gosh, that is exactly what I was looking for because it's a very much a holistic way of it still falls into
Mm.
very much the medical model, but it was very much very holistic of combining the body, mind, and spirit. So I thought that is my path. So that's when I was working full time. I went to Mount St. Mary's College in LA, and that's what started my occupational therapy career, which is absolutely wonderful.
Mm.
Probably for almost 30 years. It was pretty much I ended
Wow.
up working from infants to toddlers, the school systems, adults rehab, spinal cord injury, mental health. Um, so anyway, basically, no matter where I lived, it always offered me this job security. So the last place
Mm.
I worked was obviously in Idaho. I worked in an outpatient pediatric clinic, and that is when I was introduced to craniosacral therapy. The owner of the clinic, very much into holistic healing. She made sure that all the OTs and the PTs and speech therapists were trained in upledger craniosacral therapy. And even though the insurances, they did not accept cranio, we basically billed it as, manual muscle or anything that would fall into that category. So we did treat children with autism and sensory processing disorders with cranial. It really helped to calm their nervous system. Also great for infants for tongue tie and torticollis. And we also treated their parents because there's such a connection between children and their parents. And so that was my introduction to cranial. And that was back in 2014. And cranial was also I realized how profound that work was also. And so I had this vision where I knew that, being in Idaho would be temporary because at that time, Robert and I had we had a long distance marriage because he was working in LA, I was working in Idaho. So we would either meet in Idaho or Sedona because we had a home in Sedona or in LA. But I knew that, when my son Kieran was graduating in 2020, it was that COVID
Mhm.
graduation.
Oh,
The plan was that, he would go to college. He ended up going to Cal State Northridge. So he moved in with my folks who lived in Valley, which I'm so grateful for. And my plan was to sell the house in Idaho and settled full time in Sedona. And at that time, I also felt this shift where I really wanted to get away from the medical model and provide exclusively
mhm.
craniosacral and then also Reiki when I came to Sedona. So that was the vision that I had
All right. Well,
once I
can
came here
I
full time.
interrupt? Great. Well, thank you so much for bringing us to this point. I want to interrupt you just for a sec here because you mentioned Robert as your husband.
Hmm.
One of my previous interviews was with
Right.
Robert. Can you give us a little story about how Robert and you got together? I think
Okay.
it's a story for a movie, I
Okay.
think. If you can give us a elevator pitch on that, but
Okay.
I think it's just a wonderful story.
Oh yeah. Well, at that time, so I was, of course, I started, I grew up in LA, and at the time with my first husband, and at that time, this was in 2005. My first husband, he actually wanted to get out of California and move to Idaho because that's where his best friend was, and he wanted to kind of get away from the hustle and bustle. And so that's how I ended up in Idaho. And after so many years, that's when we ended up getting a divorce. And I moved back to California because that's where my family was. All my family, my support system. I didn't know anybody in Idaho the first time around I was living there. So
Mhm.
um, I was in LA for about 2 years until, again, there's so many overlap. I mean, we'll probably go back to that
Right.
story, but it was because of Reiki. I ended up going back to Idaho. I knew that I had to go back to Idaho. And so it was probably 2 months after I returned to Idaho in 2010 that I received this friend request on Facebook from Robert. And I noticed we had a lot of common friends that comes from my elementary through high school, but I didn't know who Robert was. He was a year ahead of me. But there was we had a lot of friends in common, but the person that I reached out to of one of my friends was a childhood friend named Christian who lived across the street from me. And, we also went to the same elementary and high school. But Christian was my best friend when, gosh, I was in preschool, kindergarten, about that time. So I asked Christian, I said, "Who's Robert Lane?" And so Christian says, "Well, when our family left our neighborhood, Robert happened to live across the street in my new neighbor, and we became best friends." And so I thought, oh, okay. So I can, I accepted a friend request from Robert. So this was in December of 2012. And, Robert's like, so we got along really well on Facebook. We was messaging each other, and he wanted to come to Idaho, but I thought, no, I'm going to go to Sedona. I've never been to Sedona. He had a house there, and I thought, if anything, I'll go meet you in Sedona first. So 3 months after we connected on Facebook, it was in February, I flew out to Sedona for the first time, and I actually flew into Flagstaff, which is a little bit closer than Phoenix. And
Mm-hmm.
I got off the plane, and then I see this person. It was Robert holding a sign that says "Welcome," and it says Mrs. Lane.
It
And
said,
so,
"Welcome, Mrs. Lane," and
so
this was your first time
it's the first time we actually
meeting
met in
each other in
person.
person.
In person, yeah, because we never hung out in
Mhm.
elementary or high school. I don't remember Robert, but my
Mhm.
mom
Right.
kind of remembers Robert from going to my friend Christian's house for when his dad passed away. And so, that was the first time we met, and we embraced and we kissed for the first time, and we were there for the longest time until everybody left. So, that was my first time I met Robert, and then we he
Would
took
you
me
say
to.
then that was would you say that that was love at first sight then?
Oh, yeah, oh, it was even before that, we knew that we had this connection before we met in
Mhm.
person. So, he took me
Mhm.
to Cathedral Rock, and then that's when, and on the same day that I landed, and he takes out a ring and he asked me to marry him. So we got engaged on the first time we actually met in person, also. And
Oh my God.
then
See,
we,
that's why this is a movie. That's why this is a movie.
yeah,
All right. Well, I want to thank you for sharing that because
yes.
um that is a big part of your life and why you are now centered in
And
Sedona.
Sedona. So that's where Sedona came.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. And you are both a very blessed couple and I'm
Yeah.
glad that Robert's in our family now and but I do want you to get back to your story. Sorry I derailed you there, but I just wanted you to share that. But I do want to get back to how you um created your own business now, your own healing business. This was your vision of bringing craniosacral therapy to your clients and Reiki healing
Yes.
because I believe they would go hand in hand.
Well, Reiki goes with anything. It does, yeah. I mean, Reiki itself goes with anything really, because once you get attuned, Reiki will flow no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, Reiki. It's interesting. I mean, yeah, Reiki was also one of those things that was introduced to me when I was in LA, which is hugely, profoundly affected my life, and that's how I ended up back in Idaho. But yeah, so that's what I really wanted to do, is offer, these modalities. And even if people don't necessarily ask for Reiki, a lot of people who are very sensitive can feel when they come in for a session, even for just a cranial session, that they can actually feel the Reiki energy. I mean, I don't know how,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah. So Reiki flows no matter what. But I also
Right.
know that Reiki is also hugely healing, and can have such a profound can provide profound changes in everybody out south too. And same thing with cranial.
Well, tell us a little bit about your training in Reiki. I
It
understand from what you've told me in the past that your training was from the original, um, I guess, teacher or teachers of Reiki from Japan. And I'm gonna
Actually,
step away from
uh-huh.
uh, the camera for a sec because there's a lot of noise going on outside. I'm going to close my window,
Okay.
but continue to tell us how you were trained in Reiki.
Yeah. Well, the first time was actually not the Japanese um branch, but it was the Western branch, just like with probably more than 90% of people that get trained. So basically the first time I got introduced to Reiki was when I was in Los Angeles, and my girlfriend Minaya reached out to me and says that her Reiki teacher will be in LA. And at that time I had no idea what Reiki was. So I had no clue. I had really no expectation. So I met Lawrence Fontaine, who came to the US. She only comes about a couple of times a year. I met her, and wonderful woman. I received the session, but it's one of those sessions where I'm thinking, okay, that was beautiful. Now what? It wasn't like, wow. It was just like, no, it was beautiful, but I really didn't know, what did Reiki do for me, or, what happened. And but the next day I had what I didn't know at that time, but it's called a healing crisis. So sometimes with body work or energy work, you can have a healing crisis where it's like a purging. Um, and so the very next day after Reiki, I started my IBS came back. My At that time, I also had postpartum depression that came back. I mean, everything came back at full force, and it really brought this fear, like, wow, what did Reiki do to me? I feel horrible, and I went through it for a few weeks, and then I finally reached out to my friend saying, what did she do to me? But she says, reach out to you know reach out to the Reiki teacher, Lawrence, and explain to her. So I did, and she just says, Eileen, you're gonna be fine. You just have to trust, and it will come to you. That's what she said. I said, okay. And so I meditated on it. I mean, it was quick. And that night I went to sleep. The next morning I woke up, and it was interesting is when you pause and you listen,
Mm,
whether it be in prayer or be in meditation. I This message says you need to go back to LA. And I'm thinking,
mm,
I I came back to LA because this is where my family is. I just bought a house in LA. I have this wonderful job in this pediatric clinic. I have my family here, my family support helping with my son. Why would I go back to Idaho? But the message was, so my son can grow up with his father. I didn't want to be the reason for that distance there. So as soon as I made that realization, all those symptoms went poof, it just left my body. So I thought,
wow.
okay. And so I did like a vision board saying, I need to sell my townhouse for what I paid for. I need a job in outpatient pediatric clinic, and I need family support. So I made that intention. In 5 days,
Hmm.
I got an offer on my townhouse. I got I got a job offer in Boise without an interview in an outpatient
Wow.
pediatric clinic. And then my ex sister in law, who was in Long Beach at the time, she calls me and says, I'm gonna finally retire from. She was working for Boeing, McDonnell Douglas. She says, I'm
Hmm.
gonna retire, sell my house in Long Beach, and she goes, I'm gonna move to Boise with you so I can help with Karen. So there's my family support. And so I went to Idaho, and to look for our new home. Found a home to buy. Was about to sign the paperwork, and then my agent in LA calls me and says, "Well, I'm so sorry, but the appraisal came out about $25,000 below your asking price." And so I was devastated. I was crying, and my girlfriend Angela Rockwood in LA calls me out of the blue and says, she says, I had this message to call you and ask you about your house. You know, she says, what's going on? And she's highly intuitive. So I explain what's going on. And she says, She goes, I don't want you to leave me, but I understand why you're doing this. She goes, but go ahead and buy your house in Idaho because you will get what you paid for. This is the message I'm receiving from my guides. So I bought my house in Idaho, and the next day, the my LA realtor called me and says that the buyers, without even asking for any, they basically says we're gonna pay the cash, the twenty five thousand
Okay.
dollars
That
without
you were
negotiation.
needing, that you asked for.
They ask for it because the
Yeah,
bank is not going to approve the loan. They're only going to
right,
approve for what the appraisal came out. So
right. Well,
they
that's great.
offered. So that's how Reiki came into my life. And I thought, my
Mhm.
God, this is so powerful. So I was in Idaho where I
Okay.
was decided to search out a Reiki teacher, and I learned, and this is the Western branch because probably more than 90% of the people who practice Reiki is the Western side because it was
Mhm,
introduced by Takata, which is, I think she was like third or no, she was probably about third, fourth generation Japanese American in Hawaii. She
mm,
introduced Reiki to the Western world after World War II. So
mhm,
that's where my original studies was in the Western, but,
mhm. But
I went
the
up to the teacher level, but my Reiki
uh
teacher says, "You have 3 months for any questions, and then that's it," which I kinda like. I thought, "My God, if I ever become a Reiki teacher, there should be no, I'm not gonna put that time limit because if anything, you should always have the student mind of learning." There's why
Mhm,
3
exactly.
months? And so I
Right.
really had a lot of questions because I did my research and I hear so many different stories about the founder of Reiki and even the names.
Yes.
And I think a lot of it
That
had to
is
do.
what I wanted to, uh,
Yeah.
delve into a little bit, is
Yes.
that the origin of Reiki is from Japan.
It's
And
from
didn't you
Japan.
not meet or study with that person?
So, well, Usui passed away. I mean, he was from the 1920s. And so one of his
Mhm.
students, so the original Reiki Roho that Usui founded, the society still exists, but they do not teach outside of their circle. But one of
Oh,
his students left the original Reiki so that he can teach. And one of his students was that Japanese American Takata, who introduced it to the West. And at that time, they taught, it's called watch and see. So, and her not knowing the Japanese language, there's a lot of misunderstanding. So that's where that's why what the Westerners would call some of the symbols, it's like, that's why they call it that,
mm.
because not fully understanding, and that's why some of the symbols looked a little bit different, and some of the stories, like one of the stories that was going around was that Usui was is a Christian philosopher, and he taught at the US university, which was not true. But recently we found out that there's some things that Takata had to do in order for Reiki to be accepted in the West, especially after World War II, to say that he studied Christianity so that it'd be more widely accepted by the Westerners.
Ah, I
And
see. Well,
but
I can
Reiki's
certainly see why deception sometimes,
times,
it was a tool, even
right?
though we don't, uh, we don't encourage that, obviously. But,
Right.
but
But
it's
Reiki is
good that
still.
you found this out.
Yeah, so Reiki's still Reiki. It's still powerful, but I always had that
Mm.
question. I'm the seeker of the truth, I guess I was told. So I
Yeah.
thought, okay, that makes sense. But, I still, I still had a lot of questions. So when I came to Sedona and I saw this advertisement for Komyo Reiki Do, and I saw this Japanese monk, and as soon as I saw that, I thought, that is going to be my next teacher. I just knew somehow without even like researching, I just knew like, okay, that is my next teacher. So I did a lot of
Mhm.
research and I did sit and studied with Inamoto Sensei, and he is the Japanese side. So
Mm.
again, Hayashi, who taught Takata, the Japanese American who brought it to the West, also had another student. Now, she became my teacher's student. So it's the Japanese
Mhm.
branch without the Western influence. So this is on
Mhm.
the Japanese lineage. And so him understanding the Japanese culture and language, it brought forth more clarity and understanding. And he does a lot of research about the original practices of Usui, and so that was exactly what I was looking for. He answered all my
There you go.
questions, and there's no 3 months limit. It is an
Right, exactly.
ongoing process. There's so many students that have sat with him for the past 10 years
Mhm.
learning, and every month there's an opportunity to sit in Zoom with sensei to continue practicing learning Reiki. So that's where how I ended up really embracing the Japanese branch of Reiki.
And I think that is what makes you a master in that,
Well,
mode,
we
in the
don't.
Reiki, um,
Oh, mhm.
healing.
Well, in so it's another thing is that the Western Reiki, they use the term Reiki master, but that was coined in the West by Takata. In Japan, the founder Usui always placed himself in number two because he always expected one of his students, all of his students, to surpass him. So we don't call ourselves master because we just call ourselves teachers.
Oh, okay,
And
so
I
you're a
think
Reiki
it's
sensei.
so we don't use the term master. That is more of a Western
Right.
ideology.
Right. So
Yeah.
you would be,
Sensei.
um, a
Hmm.
Reiki sensei.
Yeah,
A
we
Reiki
prefer to say
sensei,
teacher.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
And even
Well,
as a
you know what?
sensei, yeah, we don't,
Mhm.
we're continuing to learn. It never ends. So we don't master. I don't think we can ever master that. If we do that, then that means we've learned all that we need to learn. And I think a lot of that is the ego,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. Yeah. But my teacher
Exactly.
also says that it doesn't really matter which lineage, whether you're practicing a Western or the Eastern branch, just go back to the origin of Reiki, and, not one is better than the other. Because then if you start saying that, then again, that's your ego. So Reiki is
Right.
Reiki, no matter what.
E exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I do wanna say that, to see if I could put this into the well, I did alright. Just a second. I'm trying to put in here it is. Um, you have an Instagram account,
Yes.
uh, where when you do, join or you add Eileen's Instagram to your Instagram, you can view many of her videos, and she does Reiki healing through her videos. And I'm telling you, I watch them and I really feel the energy. So I
Oh,
encourage you
thank
to do
you.
that for sure. And also let me also put up there on the screen, um, yeah, now it's called the Jumbotron. Good, a good change, I think, uh, Camille, calling it that because that's what it looks like, right? Um, it kind of threw me off just a little bit here. And then I'm going to put up your website. Um, oh, there's not an image that pops up there. But anyway, if you click on that link there on the Jumbotron, for Eileen's business, healing business, um, Sedona Koroko Healing.
Kokoro healing.
Kokoro, Kokoro.
Kokoro.
Kokoro. And can you
Kokoro.
tell us what kokoro means?
Kokoro means it's a Japanese word, which means to really the heart is that there is no separation of mind, body, and spirit. It is all one.
So that's
Hmm.
kokoro. All
Kokoro,
right.
or you when you
All
feel
right.
it in your heart, it's that kokoro.
All right. Well, we
Mhm.
learned something there. Well, we learned a lot today, I think, so far. But we still have time. And Louis, we did give you the mic. Do you have any questions for Eileen, or how do you know Eileen? If you want to test your mic, go right ahead.
Louis and
Oh,
I are cousins.
oh,
He's your
really?
cousin too, Karen.
He is.
Yeah, so our great uncle Kado,
Oh my God.
that's
Yeah.
that's
Louis,
his
there you are.
grandson.
Okay.
Right, Louis? Yeah, that's his grandson.
All right. Hello. Are you in Culver City? I'm close by.
I think he's close to there.
Yeah. Well, Louis, thanks for joining.
So he's our
Um,
cousin too.
who knew that Chatmosa would bring us all together,
Together.
our
Uh-huh.
family? I
Well, he's in
haven't
Sierra
heard from
Madre.
anyone from the Cado side in a while. So, oh, hi there. Hi, Louis. Did you try to refresh the browser to see if your mic would work? I see you're in Sierra Madre. If you have a question for Eileen, you can, or want to make a statement, you can put it in the chat if you want, and I'll read it out to her. She'll read it. Um, but while we're um, seeing if Lewis's mic will work, Eileen, I do want you to step back and talk about the fly fishing. All right.
Ah, fly
And
fishing.
Time Flies and the Kite magazine, you were a publisher. I mean,
Oh gosh. Yeah,
there's
that goes way back when I was in Idaho, with my ex-husband. He got into fly fishing. I had no idea what fly fishing was, and he thought it would be great if he can have a wife to tie flies for him. So his best friend says, "Hey, my pastor at the church is having a class, so your wife should take a class in tying flies." So I did. I was in this room with all these other men, and I got introduced to how to tie flies. And, I love working with my hands. I love doing art. And so I felt like it came naturally to me. So I started tying
Mhm,
flies before I even knew how to wet a line to go fly fishing. And so that's where it kind of started. It was when I got my divorce and went to LA for those couple of years. I signed up with Sierra Nevada Fly Fishing. It's a fly fishing club in the San Fernando Valley, in LA, where I took a course on the basics of like putting your rod together, the line, and how to cast. Because my ex husband was not very patient in showing me how to set up my rod. He rather just set it up and hand it to me, where again, I want to know, what am I doing?
mhm,
What do I do? So that's where, and then we had a little outing to the lower Owen. So we passed through Manzanar, where I
mhm,
visited Manzanar, and then I went fly fishing, and that was my introduction. So when I went back to Idaho, the second time around, after my Reiki session, it was a fly fishing community that kind of opened their arms up to, back to Idaho. And so these are all the people that I met online, and actually met them in person and went fly fishing. So that became, my community when I went back, because I'm thinking I'm leaving all my family and friends in LA. I know nobody in Idaho, but it was a fly fishing community. So that's where I started meeting people and says, "Hey, let's go meet here and go fishing." So a lot of this was self-taught, and so that's how I
That's
got into fly
great.
fishing and fly tying. And so
And
I
women are not in fly fishing. Women are not a prevalent demographic. So you have
oh
become a very like a celebrity
oh no, they've
in many ways
it's
in that community. And
oh no,
tell
it's
us
really
about how
grown.
it has grown. It has
It
grown
has.
because, Julia Louis-Dreyfus is a fly fisherwoman,
Mhm.
so she has promoted it, but I want to ask you about, becoming the publisher of Kite Magazine, which is about fly fishing and if you look in the Jumbotron, I put up a picture of one of your flies. That looks like an actual bug, but you created that. All right. And also, on if you are in the Jumbotron, you can switch to different slides. So if you go back to slide 4, you see Eileen holding a trout that she caught with one of her fabulous flies. And I'm going to put up another picture up there. Um, of some flies that you've tied, but tell us a little bit about how you became the publisher of Kite Magazine.
It just kind of, yeah, well, I really got really consumed into fly fishing because it allowed me to have this whole creative aspect of tying flies, which I really love. So I ended up tying flies, selling flies, fishing with them. And then my friend George was the owner of Kite Magazine, which I have written articles for him in the past, and like recipes for tying flies. And at that time, he was really looking into selling his publication to somebody else. And so I thought, my God, this is something really huge. I've never done this before. But, Robert encouraged me and he says, go for it. And I thought, okay, I'll do it. So I took over the publication, and it went fly up to Washington to spend a weekend with George to really learn everything. Like it was like a real quick about everything about like publications and the whole um what do you call it, the program that I had to buy and download,
Mhm.
and how to edit the for the magazines and get it uploaded and everything. So that's what I did for probably about maybe 5 years, and just the generosity of the people in the fly fishing community who really wanted to, because it's a small company and it really wasn't
Mhm.
sponsored. So I really relied on the generosity of the fly fishing community who were really wanting to share their stories or their
Mhm.
adventures or whatever craft that was fly fishing related, to submit
Yeah.
articles for me. And then
Mhm.
that's how Kite Magazine came about. So I did that for a number of years, and it's published on ISSU platform. It's still on there. And then so I did that for a little bit until I felt like,
Yeah.
okay, I think it's time to move on from there.
Mhm.
So
Well, I applaud you for that. I applaud you for being in um, a, a sport that is really dominated by men. I know that more women are getting into fly fishing, and I'm not sure how many women are fly tyers, but you're certainly at the forefront front of that. And I think probably if people are still interested in your uh, f- uh, flies, can they still order some from you?
nope,
Do
that's
you
where I
still
kind of
do it?
only for myself. So there's been a lot of shifts. I think the big things that really drew me to fly fishing was the sense of community. It's of course I love fly fishing and catching fish, but it's not all
Mhm.
about catching fish. Otherwise, it's called fishing. It's not called catching. What I
Yeah.
love about it is a sense of community, of getting together with people, or even alone, but spending time in nature. Because when you're out there on the
Yes.
water, you don't think about your worries or what's going on in the world. It's just it's no different from like when I'm in Sedona and I'm out there hiking. It's and spending time in nature is what really drew me to
Mhm.
fly fishing. And when I came to Sedona, we sure there's places to fly fish here, but it really shifted because I really wanted to hone into my own private practice. And so,
Yes, of course.
unfortunately, I haven't had time to dedicate that much to fly tying. So I do on occasion when I'm able to go out in the water, I'll tie up a few flies for myself to go fishing. So I'm no longer
Mhm.
really offering that out and
Well,
um
that's alright. That's
much.
alright,
So
but, people
yeah.
can see your artistry, I think, on the past, Kite magazine pages. There's a lot of pictures of these fabulous creations that you have done. So, and
Thank you.
Eileen is also an artist. Oh, there you go
So that's
at
on MK Flies on Instagram, which has all
Instagram.
my that's my fly
Oh,
fishing.
just yes, you could see all of her pictures and really check out these, amazing works of art. They're works of art, and it takes you time to, create those. So, thank you for sharing that. Now, we don't want to end our interview without you telling us how, and this is being recorded, by the way, so that um, you know, people can play this interview and hear the whole thing and learn about how they can work with you. With your therapies. And even though you are in Sedona, Arizona, don't you also offer service over the internet as well? Tell us about how people can contact you and work with you.
The only thing is, because all my work is in person, the only thing that can be done distance remote would be distance Reiki. But my
Okay.
main practice is craniosacral. I did get
Mhm,
certified through Upledger a couple of years ago, so I am a certified craniosacral therapist. So that is my main offering in my private practice. And I
mhm,
always say, everything's Reiki infused. That and also teaching other people Reiki who's really felt drawn to the Japanese lineage of Reiki. So if anybody ever
mhm.
comes to Sedona, I'm here for cranial because that's something that's in person. But if they
Exactly. And
want,
how
Mhm.
does a person contact you in Sedona?
In Sedona, either through my website at Sedona Kokoro Healing, or I'll put my number, my business number is my same as my personal number. It's 208 So yeah, you can look on my website at Sedona Kokoro Healing for my services,
Mhm,
which is craniosacral therapy, which is wonderful. I don't know if everybody's familiar with that, but it is basically a very light touch, hands-on method of basically I can palpate one's craniosacral rhythm, which is produced by the cerebrospinal fluid, which is produced in the brain, and it protects our brain and down our spinal cord, and which is palpable with a very
mhm,
light touch modality. It is not a massage,
mm.
but
So that's why that can only be done in
it's in
person.
person. I mean, there are some people who say they do the remote
And
cranial, but
which
it's
right.
it's in person because I have to palpate,
How
but
can that
it's such a wonderful modality for all kinds of. I mean, some people come in for relaxation because it really does work on your central nervous system, but there's been studies done about where for longevity and good health because it does increase your body's production of cerebrospinal fluid, which we see that with clients who have Alzheimer's and dementia, that they get less and less cerebrospinal fluid on the brain. And so there was a
Oh.
study that was done where we taught caretakers to do what we call a still point in cranial, where we
Mhm.
purposely stop the craniosacral rhythm, and then it'll be in this deep still point, which is very relaxing. And when it starts, it's like this big whoosh. And so they
Mm.
found that just doing that part of cranial, which is only what takes 2 minutes a day to these
That's all.
clients with dementia, they found that it increased their memory and decreased their agitation. So there's that one
Oh,
aspect of cranial that's deeply
there you go, and
healing
it's without drugs. It's
without drugs.
it's this is holistic healing. This is
Very
not
much
without it's no drugs.
no drugs, and it's been very
Yes.
effective
Now
for
tell
my
us
brain.
about the dolphin point while we still have a
Uh-huh.
few moments.
Oh, okay. Well, the dolphin is a
Mhm.
microcurrent point
Yeah.
stimulation, which I use that with cranial. And so there are points up.
Mm,
One of them, I mean, I use it for scar release. I also use it for acupuncture points. But a big part of it
mm,
is what I use to stimulate vagal nerve. So with cranial, we do also work on the vagus nerve, but the micropoint stimulation really
mm,
hits it directly. So I do that while I'm working on cranial at the same time. But the vagal nerve stimulation using the dolphin micropoint stimulation was actually approved by Health Canada for treating COVID long haul because it's been so effective
oh.
for that as well.
Oh my god,
But
I wish that
I,
information was out there more than
yeah,
about that,
so that's without drugs. But yeah,
because
it's
a
been
lot of
very
people have
effective.
long COVID. A lot of
Yeah.
people have long COVID. I just heard of
Hmm.
a I think it's a musician that has it, it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, he
So yeah,
keeps getting sick.
so
Yeah.
cranial with the vagus nerve stimulation was great for COVID long haul. It's great for anxiety. Um, Another thing that cranial also works on is somato-emotional release because a lot of the trauma we keep in our tissue, which shows up as pain. So that's
Mm,
another aspect a lot of people don't know about cranial is that we also really dive into this therapeutic dialoguing and releasing the trauma that's in our tissue. So it can also have a very profound effect on our bodies. So, but it's just
mhm.
wonderful for TMJ, vertical fibromyalgia, stress, PTSD, concussions. I mean, pretty much everything. So,
Wow.
a wonderful, powerful modality.
Well, I'm gonna get on a plane and come visit you
Come
in
see me.
Sedona.
That or
Because
somebody
I need some
has a
craniosacral therapy immediately.
yeah, or when I come to LA, I always bring my table. I just don't have a place because I always give cranial to my parents. My dad's 93. I give it to my
Mhm.
mom also. But yeah, if somebody has a place,
Mhm.
I got my table, so when I come to LA, I can also offer services too. If they have a space in their home, I can,
Alright,
that
well,
is
come to my
doable.
apartment. We'll
Yes.
just do it in my living room.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and, I see, Camille has lived in Sedona before, and she
Yes.
wrote, "Sedona is magical." It is a magical place, and I love you should follow Eileen on Instagram because she'll take photographs and she'll tell you about some magical experiences that happen. Like, sometimes out of the blue, she finds a certain feather. There's a lot of energies in Sedona, and she and I both um really feel that crystals, or we work with crystals. We both feel that crystals hold a lot of power. And of course, in Sedona, when you couple crystals and the energy vortexes in Sedona, like, whoa, we're talking about powerful energy. Tell us about that. We still have a few moments. Tell us about that, Eileen.
Oh god. Well, I mean, definitely the veil is very thin here. I know that when I came here full time to live full time, it took me about 3 months to really settle in. I felt like I was on caffeine. And it is a place, it's very a place of a lot of, I mean, people say, "Oh, it's so woo-woo," but there's a lot of things that you experience that you really cannot explain,
Mm.
the energies here and so on. But I've met a lot of wonderful people, and yeah, I mean, I think the land itself, it's very powerful, and then I think it
Oh,
all
yeah.
goes back to the history and with our, the Native Americans who, they came to Sedona to really not to live, but they came here to do ceremony. So this is very much very sacred land that we have here. They didn't really come here to settle and to live, but really Sedona is a place to come to perform and participate in ceremony. And
Mm. Well,
so
yeah, they recognize the place as sacred, but if
it's
you
sacred.
read
And
some
so
of the
that's
notes that Camille,
mhm,
if you could read some of the notes that Camille put in the chat, she's lived in West Sedona,
Sedona. Mhm.
and let's see, uh,
Oh,
there's
okay.
tons of retired CIA
Yeah,
people in
it
Sedona. I guess they need to like they need a cleanse, with the energies of Sedona. But yes, it is. I have visited Sedona a couple of times, and I really felt energy vortexes there when I was there. And sometimes you'll go to a place like they have these pink Jeep tours, but uh, I did go on one of those tours, but on another occasion I was there. Um, I just toured myself. I just went to different spots and I just sat there and just absorbed the energy. And there's something that happens, like you feel a timelessness sometimes. Like, you don't know if you were sitting and meditating for 5 minutes or 10 hours, it kind of just goes like that. So, I encourage everyone to at least visit Sedona once in their life, and then you could make an appointment with Eileen and get a craniosacral
I'm here.
therapy and healing. Well, I really want to thank you so much for allowing me to do this podcast interview with you today, Eileen. Do you have anything
Thank
else that you'd
you.
like to add
I think,
about
whether
your life?
yeah, I mean, I think the big takeaway is really yes, man, Sedona is a very special place, but you don't have to come to Sedona to get that healing or that, I think
Mm,
take
oh,
time
good
to go
point.
out in nature anyway, or find that quiet spot, even if in the middle of the city, take that
Mhm.
time of stillness. And I think a lot of us, and I have to remind myself a lot of time, is to take that moment of stillness because sometimes we just
Mhm.
get so caught up even here in Sedona of like what I need to do, and I just get so caught up in so many other things that you kind of forget that we really do need to take a moment of stillness no matter where we are, and you don't have to go somewhere far away to find it. It's just something that we have to really incorporate that every day in wherever you live. So take
Mhm.
that moment for ourselves, for stillness and looking inwards, because it's when you listen, the answers are always there, and to trust.
Mhm. There you go.
Yeah.
Very good advice. Now, what's next in your life? Is there a next step
It's
for
just
you
continuing,
and
just
Mhm.
continuing this the path that I'm on. I mean, I'm also doing some visceral manipulation, which is a whole nother world. But I think really for me, it's just an ongoing. What's next is just really it's just continuing this journey, and I think, like I mentioned before, I'm really reminding myself to have healthy boundaries for myself,
Mhm. Uh-huh.
and balance.
And that's
So
good for everybody,
it's good for
right?
everybody.
Everybody should have
Yes.
that. That's
Mhm.
exactly right.
Next massage for
Well,
Robert.
before we close, yeah. Well, Robert has rejoined us, and thank you for that, Robert.
Oh,
Now, before we close, I do want to give a shout out to Chatmosa. Chatmosa is a versatile web based platform designed for real time conversations like we just had and interactive sessions. It ensures easy access for participants through seamless login options through popular apps like LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and TikTok. Chatmosa fosters deeper connections within your community, making every interaction engaging and impactful. And I'll say this, I think that we certainly had an engaging session, and your work, Eileen, is impactful. And I wouldn't just say that just because you're my cousin, but you
no.
are. And thank you, Louis, for joining. I really appreciate you. I'm sorry we couldn't get you to talk on camera. That didn't work, but I hope that you'll join me and Eileen, perhaps, if we have another
Yeah.
interview about more healing and more interesting topics here on holistic lifestyle. And thank you, Camille, for being one of the founders of Chatmosa. And
Yes.
I wanted to tell all of you to have a really happy holidays, a beautiful new year. All right. And just take time and enjoy the rest of 2024. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
And reach
you,
out to me,
Eileen.
Camille. Thank you so much.
Thank you.